been a dominatrix for like 32 years. There's Mistress Black Velvet, who's been a dame for like 15 years. So, it's kind of funny. We get to share different views, but the same thing, her and I believe in the same protocols. And it's kind of interesting. Last Sunday, Mistress Black Velvet, I think, did a show about protocols. So if you're interested in learning about protocols, you can go to the BDSM Alive Radio Network and scroll on the player, and you can find her show, Mistress Black Velvet's Meeting Place. She does a show every other Sunday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. You can definitely call into her show, and her phone number is listed on her advertisement on her page on the network, because I don't remember it offhand. She's an interesting dame. She lives a poly lifestyle. She lives with her submissive or her slave, who her and him are dating, and she's bisexual, he's bisexual, and now they're looking for a third to add into their little love triangle, I guess you could call it. Look, I, for one, am not polyamorous, but I don't knock people who are. That's just the way they choose to be. If I'm with somebody, I like to keep them all to myself. My slaves and submissives, on the other hand, I'll have multiple slaves and submissives, but my slaves and submissives are not there for sex purposes. They're there for, domestic servitude, kind of, helping mistress out with chores and being a chauffeur and, helping mistress when she needs help and, in exchange for play and that type of stuff. I mean, when I was doing full-time domination back in like 2011, 12, 13, and 14, I had 2 live-ins that lived in my house when I had a husband upstate. And I had a sissy maid and I had a cross-dresser. And the cross-dresser that I had initially owned, and I kind of still talk to him, and he's still owned by me, but he's got some personal shit going on right now. He basically, has served me for the past 14 years, and, he was a fantastic slave. He listened to me. He did everything that he was told. On occasions I had, some whirlwinds with him, but very minuscule, because, he was truly submissive, and he still is. He knew his place. He knew that I was superior to him. He was inferior. He never looked me in the eyes to talk to me unless he asked permission. When he walked behind me, he looked at my feet. He was not allowed to look up at me. So look, these are all different things that my protocols for my slaves and my submissives. Mistress Black Velvet, she has things that she does for hers, and more power to her. So I hope that, she can find a third for her and Cece, and I hope that she can expand her love stable over there. And, look, I, for one, have slave Paula, and, kind of really not interested in having other submissives right now. I mean, unless somebody great came along and, told me they were going to, take care of mistress for the rest of her life, then, yeah, I would be happy having that slave and submissive in my life, So, anyway. So, basically, now back to the sexual gratification. Some cross-dressers can only get off by dressing like a woman. So I've met people in real life that told me that, they have sex with their wife and, they really don't get off. But when they dress up as a woman and they jerk off to porn, they can get off. And some of these people had evolved into even going with men down the road because, the dildo just wasn't enough, Look, to each his own. I'm not going to say a word about anything, but these are just my opinions, things that I've witnessed in my life, and, kind of crazy. So basically the fetish, the sexual fixation, right? So whether it's, somebody has an oral fixation, they like to look at people sucking on lollipops or putting on lipstick, and, these are fixations. These are fetishes, but they're different types of fetishes. They're almost in the same type of category as a paraphilia. Fetish with weird things is considered a paraphilia. So then, I go into my favorite fetish of all time, which is eproctophilia, the fart fetish. Believe it or not, I guess maybe Mistress was doing fart fetish to her brothers when I was younger. My brothers are one's like a few months younger and the other one's like 4 years younger. They'd be sitting on the couch playing Nintendo when, when I was like, I don't know, 15. They were more like, 14 and like 11, right? My brothers used to pick on me, sibling rivalry. Even though I'm older than them, they still would pick on Mistress and whatnot. And there came a time where I don't know how and why, but I thought, Mistress has a little bit of gas tonight. My brothers are so disgusting. They literally fart on the couch, and, they don't care who's around, or maybe that's a guy thing. I don't know. But so what I started doing to them at the time was they were like in the video games, like knee deep, haven't gotten off the couch in hours, and I decided to walk up to them, and I had spandex shorts on with no panties, because you can imagine this. This was like in the summertime. I think it was like pretty hot in the house. And I literally would walk up to them and grab them by the back of the head and smush their back of the head into like my ass crack. And I would literally fart in their face and hold them there for like a hot minute. And like say very humiliating and degrading things to them like while they were there. And then like I would like push them like off the back of me and I would laugh in their face like hilariously, to like humiliate them some more. And it's funny because as I'm talking about, of course, it's making me laugh because I did this to my brothers for years. And which is even funnier because being a dominatrix for 32 years, look at it then. I was dominating my brothers, putting them in their pitiful places by having them, basically have to consume my gas. And there was just no way to slice it or dice it. And look, it's not like I walk around farting in public, but there's been times like, I'll be honest, 3 years ago when my father was dying, okay, my whole family was in the hospital, and my brother was kind of leaning over, like, on the chair, like, leaning his, arm on his chin or whatever to kind of rest, and, we were kind of getting along for the most part, so I thought it was kind of funny, and basically, I had decided to, I don't know, I just decided to just let one rip in his face. And he looked over at me and was like, he kind of got mad, but then he laughed about it. And at the time, my father was still kind of lively. And he thought it was absolutely hilarious. My dad laughed so hard. Now, but then after this, and before this, my brother was picking on me then too. But this was kind of at the calm before the storm, if you will. And my father thought it was absolutely hilarious. And he looked at me, he goes, even on my deathbed, you're trying to make me laugh. He said the look on my brother's face was priceless. So here's Mistress humiliating her brother by farting in his face. And what do you know? I mean, not that he has a fart fetish, but it's kind of funny. He always says, like, he's a cop and he works in the city. And, his one partner is a female and she kind of farts all the time. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's kind of like screwed up because, kind of reminds me of you, like farting in my face when I was a kid and, farting in my face when, dad was dying in the hospital. And I kind of laughed about it because, look, to me it was kind of funny. I guess I was trying to make my father laugh, and why not try to bring back my brother and I trying to, like, rekindle a memory from when we were children, Or I wasn't even a child. I think I was a teenager at the time, so it was pretty fucking hilarious if you ask me. But anyway, I have a lot of experience with that. When I was living in upstate New York and I had a dungeon and I was doing pro-dom sessions, I had gotten a couple of people for eproctophilia, and this is where I'm going with this. This fella told me he couldn't get off unless a woman was farting in his face. And I thought he was kidding, right? And this was at the time when I think I was like freshly separated or divorced. Not even, it was way before my divorce. And I told my husband about it, and he started laughing. He goes, listen, give the guy what he wants. He goes, I'll even go and buy you some cabbagey meals or something. So it was kind of funny because the guy, and this was the only time I ever allowed this, the guy had said to me, he goes, listen, I'll pay extra if you let me jerk off during the session. He goes, because this is literally the only way I could get off. He goes, I have a wife, but, she just kind of doesn't really do it for me. He goes, and rather than me, going and cheating on her, I'd rather pay a dominatrix to fart in my face and let me jerk off. So I said, wow, really? I said, all right. So plan the session like a couple of days before. He even sent delivery Mexican food to my house upstate so I could eat accordingly. And then by the time the session came along, I had the worst gas pains like you wouldn't believe. So literally I had him in a dog cage, and he was kind of sitting up with his head up a little bit through the bars. So I would kind of walk up to the dog cage and tell him to put his nose between the bars so I could kind of hover my ass over the cage and fart in his face. And then I would fan it with my hand. It was hilarious. And he literally, no joke, from the moment he smelled the gas, he literally, I noticed, got an instant erection, which I was like, holy shit, this guy ain't kidding. So I don't know, I thought it was kind of funny. I actually, I saw him a few times, so I actually, as a little gag gift, bought him one of these keychains that has, the fart sounds on it. It's a little whoopee cushion type thing. So I had told him, I said, well, on days that you can't come to see me. Now, mind you, this was 2011 when this happened. So he contacts me for a pro-dom session and tells me that he has this weird fetish where he wants a woman to fart in his mouth and fart in his face, and basically just if he was sitting in a chair not doing anything, just walk up to him and fart on him and shit. So I was like, why not? So another time I sessioned with him, probably a month later, and I had another dame friend come over, and he kind of wasn't expecting it, but he thought it was cool because I was trying to humiliate him with this other dame. And luckily for him, I planned it out to where she realized that, he was a fart fetish guy. And I told her, I said, I don't know if he'll go for the burping, but definitely the farting. So I said, eat, pretty gassy, obnoxious food that that's you're going to be able to kind of get off from. And then just basically, fucking let him rip. So she started laughing. She goes, oh my God, really? I said, yeah. So it was kind of comical. It made me laugh, in that instance. And so, little did I know that at that time, fart fetish really wasn't a fetish. It just so happened to be this guy's fetish. And the only way he could get off sexually or to be sexually gratified was he was jerking off when I was farting in his face. So think about that. How many of you listen to the show and go, what? Are you kidding? But believe it or not, there are fellas I'm sure you've seen in movies or you knew or even yourself had sniffed women's panties dirty from the hamper, right? So you're sniffing the panties and you want to catch the essence of the vagina that was in them beforehand. And of course, women's pheromones are in panties and all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of an interesting thought. Some guys can't get off, or they are just such horny deviants that they would take a pair of rank panties out of a woman's hamper, put them over their face and jerk off and then come into the panties. So I mean, like I said, these are all different types of kinks or fetishes. It's mostly a kink, I think, or unless you have a panty fetish. This is kind of where it's a gray line, because kink and fetish are kind of the same, but they're not. If somebody has a panty fetish and they got to put a pair of panties over their face to jerk off and smell a woman's, pheromone vagina pussy panties, and they come, that's great. Then you have other people that jerk off in the panties and come in them, and then they'll put them on their face dirty later, which is like a combination of the two fluids, whether it's vaginal